Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the library, and this is officially going to be my last 2023 video. I know I just posted my book haul from yesterday, earlier today, but this is going to be my surefire final video of 2023. This is going to be my top 10 favorite books that I read in 2023. Now, looking back on the year, I've got some stacked books that I read this year, so a lot of good ones, a lot of long ones. I do have one that I will show off, but this is also the year that I was introduced to extreme horror, which, give me a sec, I forgot one book. Okay, sorry about that. I'm terrible at planning, but yeah, these are the books that I either had a lot of fun with, really put a deep impact on my psyche, and some of these books were just really fun to read for the most part. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing started off with number 10, The Omen by David Seltzer. And this was a book that I listened to on Audible back in October, and I've always wanted to either read this book physically or, in this case, listen to it. And it really followed the movie to a T. I mean, I know the book came out first before the movie, but you get my drift. This is about the Thorne family and their problems to conceive a child. So they go to the hospital and they actually adopt a newborn baby, and they name him Damien. And lots of horrific stuff start happening around this family, and it turns out that Damien is the son of the Antichrist. So there were a lot of disturbing points in this book. The one that really stands out is the nanny who jumps out of a window and just hangs herself. It's pretty brutal. But I really enjoyed this book, and I really do enjoy that movie as well. And it's not the only horror book turned into a movie that I have on this list. You'll see that book later on in this video. But at number 10, The Omen by David Seltzer. And at number 9 is Paradise Club by Tim Meyer. And this was, I don't know if it's marketed as extreme horror, but Grindhouse Press published this. But I listened to this on Audible, of course, and this is like an island slasher. So it's just about this group of people who goes to an island, and they get picked off one by one by cultists that worship an ancient creature on the island. So it was a pretty gnarly book, but I had a lot of fun with it. and that was Paradise Club by Tim Meyer. Speaking of having a lot of fun with a book, number 8 is Serpent by Michael Cole. And right off the bat, I rated all these books 5 stars, so I'm not going to repeat myself saying that all these books were 5 stars, so there you go. But anyway, straight creature feature in the vein of Jaws and Orca and all those underwater sea thrillers. But this was about a group of people, and I believe South Carolina. I'll have to look that up, but it's somewhere on the coast, and that's during spring break or the summer, and there's like this mutated eel that just wreaks havoc on this town. Very gory and so much fun. I really enjoyed this book. But that was Serpent by Michael Cole. And at number 7 is going to be my first physical book that I own. And I really had to think about it, but I came to the decision that number 7 is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. And I read this in October, and it's a really great horror classic. The movie follows the book very well, but I think the book gets into more detail. So, of course, this is about like a little girl who gets possessed by the devil, and these two fathers have to help her before she becomes worse. And it's a very scary novel that really holds up after 50 plus years. I really enjoyed this book very much, and maybe someday I will read the sequel, but I don't have that in my possession now. But this was a bucket list book for me. The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. And at number 6, is something completely different. And it's an introduction into a genre that I feel very dirty reading about. This is going to be the first official extreme horror book that I read this year, back in October. Bloodbath by Tim Miller. And I did read another Tim Miller this year, Spankenstein, but this one stood out to me more. This is about like a female cocktail waitress in a way. Well, by night, she is a serial killer. So she has the pleasure of abducting men and hanging them above the bathtub, and she just like literally cuts them and bathes in their blood. That aspect is so gnarly and graphic, but this book also goes into pedophilia and stuff, and that's one trait that she really can't stand, so she gets revenge on these people. And this is extreme horror, so it's not going to be a genre for everybody, but I really enjoyed the hell out of this book. But that was Bloodbath by Tim Miller. And at number 5, and a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me, my opinion, number 5 is The Gunslinger, Dark Tower 1. And this is a very short-ish novel that's less than 250 pages, and I pretty much flew through this thing. I know it's technically a prequel to set up everything, but I really enjoyed Roland in his beginnings, and this novel just really introduced me into another great series that I'm currently in the middle of book 2. Well, actually, I'm hoping to finish it by tonight. Then I'll have a review out for you guys probably tomorrow. But The Gunslinger really surprised me. I know it has some slow parts, but I had a lot of fun with it. So that was Dark Tower 1, The Gunslinger, at number 5. And at number 4 is another recent read, and this just happens to be another extreme horror novel. Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. And this is only 165 pages. And man, did this book pack a punch. It gets so uncomfortable, but this only relies on like psychological horror. There's not a lot of gory stuff in here, but this deals with like suicide, depression, necrophilia, and incest. And when I mean incest, it really goes there. But this is about 2 women who are on the search of the Riverman because he has a key that he wants to give to the main woman because she's in love with like this serial killer, and she wants everything good to happen for her when she finally meets the serial killer. This ending gave me Pet Sematary vibes. It was so disturbing, and I'm like, whoa. So I really had a fun time with this. Again, extreme horror is not going to be for everyone, but I really enjoyed this as a standalone. But that was Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. I committed bugicide. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah. And at number 3 is probably one of the biggest books I read this year, Needful Things by Stephen King. And I read this in the summer. I read almost 200 pages while I was on vacation, and the rest of the time I just flew through it. It took me about like a month and a half to get through, and this was easily one of the best Stephen King books that I read this year. So this is marketed as Castle Rock's last story, and a new person by the name of Leland Gaunt moves in, and he opens an antique store called Needful Things. So this shop catered to everyone's greatest desires, but they had to perform like a task to get this item, and it just goes awry from there. Leland Gaunt was an excellent villain, and I really enjoyed this story. So, Needful Things is definitely going to be on the top of my list once I post my ranking 16 Stephen King books that I read in the past couple of years. This is definitely going to be high on that list, if not number one, but we'll see when I get there. But for now, it's sitting pretty at number 3. So moving on. And at number 2, and I'm cheating here, number 2 is going to be the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I've always wanted to read this series, and I listened to all 3 on Audible, because there'd be no way that I can probably read this physically. But I enjoyed all 3 books equally, so I just had to put it on this list. So it's basically the story of Frodo and Sam from the Shire, and they have to destroy the One Ring of Power before evil takes over the Shire and the rest of the world. So, enjoyed all the characters. My favorite Lord of the Rings character has to be Gandalf, because he is a mentor to all of these characters, and it really broke my heart when he died in Fellowship of the Ring. But you know that he comes back as the White Wizard. All 3 were perfect in my mind, but The Two Towers was kind of like the weaker one, but these are so good. My number 1 is going to be Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo. This book tore me to shreds, man. But this is a historical fiction that takes place during World War I. And it's about this soldier who is literally left as almost nothing. It's just his consciousness that keeps him alive, because he stepped on a live grenade. He lost his arms, his legs, his eyes, his tongue, everything, and he was basically like a shell of a man. Metallica did a song called One that is all about this book, and it is heartbreaking and very hard to read, but it's a very important book to read if you're in that mindset. I also did read All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque, and I really did enjoy that book as well this year. But I think Johnny Got His Gun was a better and more heartbreaking story. It was rough. But those are the top 10 books that I read in 2023. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and this was another very successful reading year for me. I did manage to read 75 books this year. It's going to be 75 once I finish Drawing of the Three, but you get the drift. But 2024 is looking to be another great year for reading. And I definitely can't wait to start that off tomorrow. So, my next video will be my January TBR. So stay tuned for that as soon as I bring it to you guys. But that's all I got for this video. And I do apologize about that dryer. It's very annoying. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios. Peace.